This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
All right, welcome to a special edition of Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush, and we have a special live edition of this program where we're actually going to be covering the campaign announcement for Nate Morris that's happening right now here in Louisville. Actually, it's just south of Louisville in Shepherdsville at Paracut Springs, and so we're going to be, actually, what's interesting is Charlie Kirk is here in town, and Charlie is going to be making an endorsement in a sense. And of course, Charlie is sort of one of the key figures in the world of MAGA, and so Nate Morris is trying to position himself as the MAGA candidate, which is more of a Trump-aligned candidate, and so and this is one way to do that. And so I tell you what, if you hear some audio in the background, we're going to go to Bob Scott, who's actually at the event right now live. And so, Bob, are you there with us?
Yeah, I got to tell you guys, the program just got started. We are at the campaign kickoff for Nate Morris U.S. Senate race. Charlie Kirk is on the stage right now talking, and it is a packed house. It is absolutely amazing what they have done here in such a short period of time. I talked to one of the organizers, John Hodson, and he had literally about 2.5, 3 weeks to put this together. And if there's any indication that Nate Morris is going to be a factor in this upcoming U.S. Senate race, this is a good indicator of that.
That's impressive. So, yeah, look at that crowd. Literally this happened. I think the announcement started percolating about 4 or 5 days ago. There were some rumors that maybe this was fake. This wasn't going to happen. But then Fox News put out a story that, hey, this is going to happen, and so they kind of solidified things. And so it was kind of one sense it was under the radar, but then it suddenly became, this is it. If you want to come see this, make it happen. Come on out. And so there we go. And so, and I tell you what, we're going to try to go to the event here. We're going to try to take Real America's Voice, which I believe is going to carry this event live. So we'll be switching to that here shortly. But it's an interesting moment because we've got Nate Morris, who's trying to basically take over from Mitch McConnell, basically take Mitch McConnell's seat. And of course, Mitch McConnell's retiring. He has two challengers so far. There's more than two others, but his two leaders are Daniel Cameron and Andy Barr. Cameron and Barr are typically more in the McConnell orbit, and so Nate is kind of positioning himself as somebody who's anti-McConnell and trying to challenge his legacy. And McConnell's has his issues here the past few years, especially as it relates to MAGA. So I think it's going to be a very interesting race around, especially when you fix it around that topic. Okay, who is going to be more effective in advancing this new Republican agenda? Somebody that's more establishment, that's been mentored by Mitch McConnell, like Cameron and Barr, or is it someone that is pure MAGA? And so it's going to be fascinating to see. We're going to I'm going to play this commercial real quick. This is a Nate Morris commercial. Let me see if we can pull this up. This is promoting. Actually, hold on. I got to pull the right one up. But it's basically his latest campaign commercial, and it is pretty impressive. So let's see if we can find this real quick, and we'll get this spun up. But and also we're going to go to the event here in a second as well. So bear with us. We kind of spun this up together last minute because all this came together. So here we go. Here's Nate Morris's latest campaign commercial.
It's garbage day in Kentucky, and thanks to Mitch McConnell, things have gotten dirty. The Bluegrass State is sick and tired of cleaning up career politicians' messes. I'm Nate Morris, a Trump America First conservative, and I'm here to take out the trash. I'm a 9th-generation Kentuckian, born to a single mom on food stamps, raised in a union household. I'm the product of bluegrass grit, I borrowed 10 grand to start a business, created thousands of jobs, and took it public, valued at $2 billion, as one of the biggest trash companies in America. So I know a little bit about garbage. And Mitch McConnell, he's trash Trump. And for over 40 years, he's been dumping on us. Amnesty for millions of illegals. Rhino judges in courtrooms across America joining Democrats on gun control. Billions spent on Ukraine and other foreign wars. And trillions more on Biden's massive spending bill. All while becoming one of the richest senators in Washington. And now he's calling it quits and thinks he can stick us with one of his puppets instead.
My mentor, Leader Mitch McConnell, I'm with him because his legacy is big.
Senator Mitch McConnell, and it's been a great privilege and honor to know him, and I'm proud to call him a friend. I'm proud to call him a mentor.
They'll betray President Trump and sell us out. Not on my watch. We've let the garbage pile up in Washington, D.C. for far too long. I'm running for Senate to help President Trump clean up the mess. I'm not a politician, and I've never run for office. And I will never stop fighting for the place that made me the man I am today. I'm Nate Morris. Let's dump career politicians and take out the trash in Washington.
All right, there we go. So that's Nate Morris, so in all his glory. So we'll see how this plays out. And so I want to go back to Bob real quick and just to kind of pick up the audio in the room, see if we could hear anything. And I think Charlie Kirk's still speaking. So Bob, why don't you can you?
Yeah, I am here. I'm going to stay off camera.
Yeah, that's fine. See if we can pick up some of the audio, and if not, we're going to try to find a stream of this so we can rebroadcast it live.
Yeah.
Hey guys in the back, if you guys can find a stream of this, maybe on Nate Morris's site or something, we'll try to take this live. But yeah, so
it's impressive. Charlie has just been talking about President Trump. Everything we know in the Bible, all things work together for the good to those who love the Lord and call according to His purpose. And what happened up in Pennsylvania, he feels was a part of God's plan to put Trump in the position he is now, obviously the president of the United States. Charlie is talking about we as Americans must coalesce, come together, continue to move forward from where we were, where we are today, and look to a brighter future together. And obviously, he's here in support of Nate Morris for Kentucky U.S. Senate, standing strong on it.
Exactly right. And Bob, there's been quite a bit of push on the with the campaign to try to get state support for his candidacy here, and so it looks like we have a few folks that have come out and that are involved in state politics that are getting behind Nate. I think you mentioned our friend John Hodgson, one of our local state reps. He's there and was part of this event, and so I think he helped organize this. So that's encouraging.
He did.
So we'll have to interview him.
One of the key organizers, it turned out.
Yeah, exactly right.
But everything initially was low key. Quite frankly, I was a little surprised to see John get out in front of this so fast, but he did because if you will recall, he strongly backed Daniel Cameron in the last race. Was one of his key people as far as getting out, especially in the Louisville area. John is a state representative, and I hope to have an interview with him as well at some point towards the end of this broadcast. But, District 36, I believe, is what he represents over in the East End, but he is firmly on the Nate Morris train. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, and that's encouraging. Now, on some level, if you're, jury's still out for me on who I would back and who I would support. Our program is definitely more MAGA focused. We're a group that believes in America first and the agenda, the new populist conservative agenda that's represented by Trump, and so, and you can sense that is the that's the theme of that the Republican Party has adopted, and if you don't line up with that, then you're certainly not in the mainstream at this point. So that the fight is going to be who can be more authentically MAGA, and but the Andy Barr and Andy Barr and Cameron have both come out and criticized. Nate Morris here saying that he has some baggage here, that maybe he was, when he was CEO, he kind of did some DEI things, or maybe he's a recent convert to MAGA, and there's quite a bit of accusations going back and forth from those two camps, saying, well, don't buy into this just yet. He may talk a good game now, but look at his record as a businessman. So it'd be interesting to see how Nate defends that, and how this would be. How we would deal with those sort of issues. And so, as a matter of fact, I think we've got how much time do we have left for this break, guys? About 2 minutes. All right. Well, in this next break, I'll play a commercial or a news story from either WHAS or Lexington 19. Yeah. Yep.
Make no bones about it. Everybody here are strong supporters of the president, and are here. I'm not saying everybody here is quite yet on board. Kind of the Morris train, but they are looking, at him, and it's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out. But I'll say this much. His campaign is off to a fantastic start with this kind of turnout.
Exactly right. Yeah, and Morris is definitely hitting all the right notes with the MAGA crowd. He's, to pull Charlie Kirk. Yeah, to pull Charlie Kirk out here on an event like this, I would say most people there. There we go. They just introduced Nate, and he's going to say a few words, and let's see if we can pick up any of the audio here. And I don't think we're able to do that. So, okay, got it. Well, we're going to go to our break here. We're going to see if we can try to pick up some more of this audio and get some of the stream here going here shortly. So you're watching live coverage of the Nate Morris campaign announcement with Charlie Kirk. They're here in town. They're actually here in Shepherdsville, making an announcement right now for the Nate Morris campaign. So we all love Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk airs on this station, and so it's kind of we thought we'd do a live event around this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break. We're going to do more coverage of this event.
Voice Radio online at kyvoice.org.
Have not had a voice in Kentucky politics for so long. You guys have kind of been ignored. You guys have been cast aside. And together, we can send a message that will be sent around the country. You in the grassroots of this state can say, enough. I'm tired of this false choice. We want to crush the uniparty. We want to end the McConnell mafia. And we're going to send a message to the rest of the country. With that, I want to introduce my friend, Nate Morris, the next senator from the great state of Kentucky.
Charlie, I want to thank you for that incredible introduction. Let's welcome Charlie one more time to the Bluegrass State. We're so honored. Charlie knows how to fight, doesn't he? And he fights for us when a lot of people don't want to speak up. And I'm here today because I'm running for the United States Senate. And it wasn't something that I thought I was going to do. And about a year ago, I get a phone call from another hillbilly, J.D. Vance. And he says to me, he said, Nate, you know, McConnell, he's got to go. And maybe you should look at that seat, at running for that seat. Would you be interested in doing that? And I said, you know, J.D., I said, I hadn't really thought about it. I'm a business guy. I'm not a politician. I've never run for office before. And I make my living in garbage. I am a garbage man. And I am a proud garbage man. And by the way, I think the people that do the jobs that nobody else wants to do, those are the people that we got to celebrate in this country. So JD and I have this conversation. I don't really think much about it. I just bought a company, and I was going to run that company. And I started seeing the people that were looking at the race. And I said to myself, first off, we've had a terrible time with Mitch. It's been shameful. It's been shameful because he's let us down over and over again. And he has sabotaged President Trump every chance he's had. And the will of the people here in the Bluegrass State, we gave him a 30-point margin. Think about that. And Mitch has the nerve to go to Washington and vote against you and vote against your interests, your vote, and what you want to see with President Trump. And I started looking at the people that were going to get in this race, and I was appalled. Because I thought to myself, these guys, they're nothing but puppets for Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell has been in the seat since 1985. That's when he was sworn in. Think about that.
That's before I was born.
That's before you were born, Charlie.
Yeah, 8 years before I was born.
8 years. Now, let's think about this.
Let me have it.
This is before the internet, right?
We've got we're going to dip in. That's our own. That's Real America's Voice own Charlie.
Right?
Okay, guys, I'll take it back. Thank you very much. That's our own Charlie Kirk right there, Real America's Voice, Charlie Kirk. They had a morning Q&A with the guy that's going to upset Mitch McConnell's guy, handpicked guy, Sandy Barr. That's Nate. We had him on Saturday. If you remember that incredible commercial, maybe I'll play that ad later. So, Mike Davis, the reason I want to tee up with that's actually live, happening in Kentucky right now, is to people should understand what we're still dealing with in the Senate. The Senate is still an institution. The Republican Senate and what we have today is still, even with all of President Trump's work, is still very much molded in the image and likeness of Mitch McConnell, is it not, sir?
It is. I mean, the Senate is the swamp within the swamp. It is the most swampy place on the planet. I was in the Senate as the chief counsel for nominations for the first 2 years of Trump's first term. I didn't really get along with the swamp ways, so I broke every piece of china in the Senate to confirm a record number of President Trump's judges in his first 2 years. So I don't think there is a Hall of Fame in the Senate with Mike Davis in that Hall of Fame.
And in that regard, if Mitch McConnell's to be known, and I've said this on the show forever, if he's been known for anything positive, it is the fact that his priority was judges. And in that regard, he really worked with President Trump. I mean, he was terrible about getting President Trump's confirmed on the first term, his guys confirmed into these spots in the government because he doesn't like MAGA, he doesn't like Trump. But on the judges, where we came together, I mean, you saw, as tough as that was, you actually saw the best of it, did you not?
I went into the trenches with then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on the Kavanaugh confirmation in particular, and on the lower court judges. I was then Chairman Chuck, and now Chairman Chuck Grassley's chief counsel for nominations. I adore Chuck Grassley. I came to greatly respect Mitch McConnell on judges because I worked with him on judges. And I'll tell you, if we didn't have Trump, McConnell, and Grassley, there is no way in hell we would have these 6-3 rulings that we're seeing last Friday.
And as we sit here today, let's talk about the process, because the swamp still reigns supreme as much as President Trump's trying to take it out. And we're seeing this in the vote-a-rama, right? And this is why you're going to have to be on guard for the next 72 hours, and even when it goes over to the House, because there's a lot changing and shifting at every time. We know, and particularly the AI part of this, which is so important for so many different reasons, but it also is symbolic in the fact that it shows you what the swamp can do in just sliding in.
All right, we're back. We'll be back to you here in 1 minute. Okay. Yeah, just come back to me. I won't play.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, we're back to Kentucky's Voice, a special, special edition of Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host today, Tom Fallbush. We're covering the Nate Morris campaign announcement, and what's special about that is we have Charlie Kirk in town. Charlie's actually did the introduction, and he's actually there today in Shepherdsville, which in Paracut Springs. This has kind of been a last-minute announcement. Came out, I guess, word of this is going to happen came out on Friday of last week, and it really solidified over the weekend, and a lot of buzz in the local conservative MAGA community about it, and so quite a big crowd out there. And I think mostly to see Charlie Kirk, honestly. I mean, most people know Charlie Kirk more than they do Nate Morris, but they're curious about Nate Morris and the fact that Charlie's endorsing him. So this is certainly a good move for Nate Morris if he's trying to capture the loyalty of the MAGA crowd. And if you followed Nate Morris up to this point, you know that he's been flirting with flirting, maybe the wrong term, I guess, working with some surrogates of the Trump world. He's been on Don Jr.'s podcast recently. He's been on, of course, Charlie Kirk's program. He's been on War Room with Steve Bannon, and so there we go. Are we live right now? Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm hearing the voice there, America's voice back in. Okay, so we'll be right back in 20 seconds here, and we're going to try to get some more live footage of this. The Morris campaign, they're not putting this out as a live feed, unfortunately. I don't know why, so we'd love to carry that if we could, but we'll be right back.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to a special edition of Kentucky's Voice. I'm your host, Tom Fallbush. Today we're covering the Nate Morris campaign announcement. He's in town. He's actually in Shepherdsville right now at Paracut Springs, making an announcement about his campaign. We're struggling to find a live feed of this. Unfortunately, it's we thought that surely the campaign would have a feed of this running, but it's certainly not. That we're not able to capture it. So, and the cameras we have out there are just inadequate to really capture the audio. So we're just here kind of watching from the sidelines, and we'll try to bring you some of this video as we get it. But we do have Bob Scott out there live right now. He's with some folks, and we'll try to see if we can get some reaction from some of the folks that are there about the event and what's happening. So Bob, can you?
Charlie Kirk is now talking with Nate Morris. The energy here is incredible. And I can't say enough. I mean, Zach, pan around, show the crowd. Just so, and I went ahead and moved to the back of the room. We were at the front just so I could talk a little bit loud. But it is good to see. You see all sizes, all shapes of folks here.
Yeah.
I think from all different types of backgrounds. These are people here that are, I think, interested in finding out a little information, learning a little bit more about Nate Morris. I agree with you, Tom. I heard you say earlier a lot of came out to see Charlie Kirk. But let me just say this. Nate Morris is going to be a player, a factor in this upcoming race. And I'm really excited to see what happens, as we move forward. We find ourselves in an exciting time. In fact, there's some other people that just showed up. I don't know if they want to come on air right now, but I do. In fact, Tom, if you want to go back to you,
yeah,
take it back to
that's
Tom,
fine. Yeah,
I'll
see if you can
ask
set up an interview or two, and we would love to hear what people are saying about the
the
event.
No, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's an interesting moment right now. There's I've got a news story I wanted to play of just what the just some dynamics in the campaign right now. So we'll go to that real quick. So guys, here we go.
You want to go on there?
Okay, I'm gonna reset this.
Seat is getting crowded as Lexington businessman Nate Morris tosses his hat in the ring. As the 7th Republican in the race, Morris joins better-known candidates Congressman Andy Barr and former Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Barr spoke with reporters in Washington today, blasting Morris, claiming he is fake MAGA. Barr says he's the only candidate who has supported President Trump from the beginning.
The bottom line is I'm the only candidate in this race who's actually delivering for President Trump's agenda. These other candidates like to talk about it. They're fake MAGA. The reality is I'm the only candidate actually doing the work, voting for the One Big Beautiful Bill, working with Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick on the economic agenda, working with Kevin Hassett and the National Economic Team. They like to talk. I'm actually doing the job.
Daniel Cameron also slammed Morris, calling him a globalist in a MAGA hat. He accused Morris of backing Nikki Haley in 2024, hiring Barack Obama's campaign manager, and laying off Kentucky workers while taking a $41 million payout. Cameron claims Morris is now pretending to support Trump. Morris has dismissed his opponents as, quote, cronies of Mitch McConnell.
There we go. So interesting. It just, and I think all of us that are they're going to be voting for this candidacy, for this election for Senate, we're still, a lot of us are uncertain about how we feel about any of these candidates. So I think this is going to be a very healthy primary because we need to really learn who these people are. So I'm going to go back to Bob. Bob, we've got someone there who wants to be interviewed.
I have a fellow by the name of Mike Fitzpatrick. He's just a man in the crowd, and I grabbed and pulled him over here and just want to ask Mike, what made you decide to come out to this event?
Yeah, I'm actually from county. Yeah.
How nice.
We don't know. He's got people that are embedded down.
It is exciting. It is exciting. And so you drove over from Frankfurt to attend this event.
Zach, the audio's on the wrong mic. It's on his ears. It's not on the actual piece. Tom, I'm going back to you.
Looks like we're losing some audio there from Bob, so no worries. But yeah, we're technical difficulties. We kind of spun this up at the last minute, so bear with us as we work out some of these technical difficulties. Like I said, we thought the campaign would have a live feed of this, but apparently they are not making it out live out there. So, but anyway, so we've got Nate Morris making a campaign announcement, and there we go. Sorry, I got some stuff going on my ear as well. So we've got him out there making a campaign announcement, and we've got Charlie Kirk there. Pretty interesting moment. Like I said, he's trying to line himself up to be the Trump candidate, which is great. I think we need somebody that represents the Donald Trump agenda. Is he the right person for this? Could be. I don't know. It seems like a lot of folks in the national MAGA world are certainly lining up. Certainly lining up to be that, or lining up behind him, to be that person. So we're going to see what comes of this. There are some pretty interesting developments over the weekend. We've got somebody. Actually, it looks like the state Republican Party invited Nate Morris to speak, and there's been some controversy around that. And one of the basically they wrote him a letter, and I'm going to find this video here shortly to kind of play this and to have him describe it to you. But he basically said that we want you to come and speak, but we don't want you to speak ill of Mitch McConnell, which was kind of different. And so let's see if we can find that clip, and we'll play that real quick. So it basically said, don't speak ill of any fellow Republicans if you show up and speak at this convention. Well, how do you necessarily do that when you're trying to run against his legacy? So anyway, let's see what Nate Morris has to say about that, and we'll play that real quick.
And yesterday afternoon, I get a call from the Republican Party of Kentucky, and they said, we're going to be sending you a letter about the upcoming Lincoln Day dinner, statewide Lincoln Day dinner that's going to be held in a few weeks. And we want you to read that letter and understand what the chairman's trying to communicate. Now, they sent me this letter because obviously they're going to invite me because I'm a candidate for a statewide office, is running for the United States Senate. So I get this letter, Steve, and it says, do not speak ill of anyone who's not in the race, who's a member of the Kentucky Republican Party. Now, Steve, you know what that means. They're saying you cannot talk bad about Mitch McConnell if you come to this event. And I said, you know what? I said, look, the whole reason why I would even go to this dinner is to make this about Mitch McConnell, because guess what, Steve? This whole race is about Mitch McConnell. And these two puppets that are in the race, they're saying, well, you know, McConnell's not on the ballot. Absolutely he's on the ballot. Because if one of his puppets gets in this seat, we're going to get 40 more years of Mitch. And I could not believe that, number one, Steve, you don't, why would you paper something like that and admit your weakness and send that to me? And second of all, why do you continue to not allow people to tell the truth? You know, in business, Steve, I know you've been so successful in business and you've done so many things entrepreneurially. In business, you know, the bucks speak and the facts speak. But in politics, you're not allowed supposedly to say what you want to say. And look, the reason why I'm in this race is because I want to tell the truth finally about Mitch. I want to tell the truth about his record. I want to take it to the people and show this is why we've been sold out by somebody like Mitch McConnell. And his cronies are continuing to cover for this guy and to prop him up. And then I find out later, Steve, I make a couple of phone calls, and our state party is going to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award. A Lifetime Achievement Award, Steve, can you believe that? After everything he's done to our president. You know, Steve, I know you've seen the numbers. Trump carried this state by almost 30 points. 30 points. And they want to give Mitch McConnell an award? I mean, that's just absolutely ludicrous. And you know what, Steve, we're going to have a lot of fun with it. We're going to have a lot of fun with it because we're going to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And I think these guys are going to melt down, and it's going to be so much fun to watch.
So there we go. So Nate Morris and versus Mitch McConnell, and that's certainly a race that needs to be had here. I mean, the McConnell legacy during the Trump era is really I don't know, it's really been disappointing, honestly. And there's I think he had a little case of TDS, you know, Trump derangement syndrome. You know, something about the way Trump can get under the skin of his opponents, and because Trump kind of gets personal. He uses that as a tactic in his toolkit or tool in his toolkit. You know, where he'll you know, he likes to get under people's skin in order to, you know, I think maybe it's a negotiation technique. Maybe it's just his New York way of interacting with people. I don't know. Anyway, regardless, it can really offend people, and they can kind of lose their mind, you know, and kind of lose what's even, you know, appropriate for their own interest. And so, and I think that's what's happened to McConnell. So he's got really offended by him, and he just will be counter Trump whenever. Even when it's against his interest to be so. So the question is that fair? Is the entire Mitch McConnell legacy worth dismissing? And I would say no. And so, if you are a conservative, chances are you came out of the Republican era of being a conservative, or the Reagan era of being a conservative, and so Mitch McConnell was basically a Reagan era conservative, and so conservatives of that generation did mostly good. They were mostly ineffective, but at least they stood for things that were good. I mean, you know, the Reagan era was great. We had some good things in the Bush era, but it kind of went off the rails, especially when it comes to the average American. I'd say in the 2000s and 20 teens. You know, just, you know, the sort of the free trade, building this globalist system seemed to work against American workers. Now, it made sense during the Cold War, right? You know, when people attack globalism and they attack this, the deep state and all these things, we got to understand where that came from. That came from the era of the Cold War, right? We had to build this international coalition of nations to basically fight the communists and win the Cold War. And so it made sense to go out and give favorable trade deals to Europe or to Asia or to this country or that country, because we were basically bribing them to be part of our coalition to fight the commies, to fight the Soviets. And guess what? Hey, it worked. It even worked with China. We got China, a communist country, to be on our side during the Cold War. And so, Richard Nixon had tip, and so that sort of thing worked. And it was necessary at the time. But when the Cold War ended, we never adjusted. Our economy and our economic system never adjusted, and so we kept, selling out American jobs to the third world, and just gutting our manufacturing base for another 30 years beyond the end of the Cold War. For what purpose? And so finally, Americans are woken up. So hold on, we kind of get that. Well, we needed to do it then, but now we don't need that. Now it's just all it's doing is benefiting elites, benefiting people like the Mitch McConnell class, the elites on both parties, on both the Democrats and the Republicans. They're the ones that benefited over the past 30 years with this globalism stuff. So hence the Trump train and MAGA. And so there we go. So McConnell, a little bit more of the establishment, a little bit more of the old school. We'll be right back. We're talking about the Nate Morris announcement that's happening today in Shepherdsville.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Can we go to Bob? Yeah. All right, we're back to us here in the studio, and we're trying to get as much coverage as we can of this campaign announcement of Nate Morris at Paraquet, say that 3 times, Paraquet Springs, which is in Shepherdsville, and they are. Oh, look, we have Bob there, and he's got some guests. So let's talk about this, Bob. So yeah, I think you have a guest with you, and so yeah,
here I'm learning a lot about Patrick. You can see he's obviously a huge U of L fan, but he's also retired assistant attorney general. Did you tell me?
General.
Yeah, so we have seen all kinds of different folks here. What brought you out?
I'm a big fan of Charlie Kirk, and I didn't know who Nate Morris was, but I wanted to see Charlie.
As you know, it's funny, Patrick, because that seems to be a common theme. Is people are asking who Nate Morris is, but wouldn't you say, after what you've heard today so far, that there a lot of more folks are going to be finding out exactly who he is?
Oh, I know a lot more about him now.
Yes.
No, I like what he had to say.
Have you moved any from where you came in? Now, are you looking at this race with more of an open mind? Did you have a specific candidate?
No, I didn't have it. Yes.
Okay.
Scott Jennings of CNN. I'm hoping there's rumors that he might.
Yeah, I've heard that rumor too.
Big Scott Jennings fan, but I know about Scott Jennings. I don't know about Nate.
Yes.
So, but I wanted to come out and listen to hear what he had to say.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that you find it seems like the other 2 candidates are kind of right now ganging up on Nate Morris and running ads against him? Do you see any of those ads?
I hadn't seen the ads.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, but Daniel, I like Daniel Cameron, but he's already lost to Andy.
Yep.
And
okay,
I have a lot of fear that Andy might run too. So I know he's real popular.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that because there's a strong sentiment because he had run it. I don't know if you know who John Hodgson is, but he's a state representative from over in Louisville who supported Daniel Cameron in his last bid for governor. He's now on the Nate Morris bandwagon, and in fact actually helped to put together this event. How did you hear about this event?
I got a text message from Charlie Kirk's group. I guess from Turning Point USA.
Okay,
so
beautiful.
I guess I'm signed up there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts that you have about today, and what do you think this election is going to look like as we move forward?
Well, I'm interested in seeing what the other Republican candidates have to say, but I liked everything I heard today.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you stepping in, Mr. Former Assistant Attorney General.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you,
Take care. Yeah, we'll see you, Patrick. So, Tom, here we are.
Yeah.
We are just this race, as far as Nate Morris is concerned, is just getting started, and really the overall race is just getting started. We're now well over a year out from the election, general election. But if we've seen anything today, we are going to be more calm and assured that it is going to be a very interesting race. Obviously, Nate Morris, we talked a lot about this today. He's trying to frame this as a race that he's running as an outsider, really as a common man, as much as you can be when they say he's a billionaire. But he's certainly not in the camp of Mitch McConnell, and it's really that's the framing that's going on right now. That he's against Mitch McConnell, and I know that Steve Bannon and his group that's here today are supporting him. I think for that very reason alone, as well as the fact he's a very knowledgeable, capable individual, and built a company up to a point that he had a lot of success with it.
Yeah, Bob, if you can talk to some more people, I'd ask this question of them. What is their opinion of Mitch McConnell's legacy? I'd love to know what they think about that. And so what is their opinion of his legacy? Because most Kentuckians that have been here for more than a few decades have seen Mitch McConnell's career, and certainly, especially if you're a conservative or Republican, I'm sure you have some solid opinions about what he's done, what he hasn't done. So I'd love to hear what other people think about that. I think there's a mixed legacy there. I think early on he was a strong Reagan ally and conservative Republican, did great for the party, for the country, for the conservative movement. But it seems like when the conservative movement changed its focus to more of a populist approach, he didn't jump on that bandwagon. And I think that's what's really turned a lot of the party against him, and especially a lot of the MAGA folks against him. So I'd love to hear what some of your friends there say about that. And as a matter of fact, I've got a clip I was going to play again. I think we've got enough time to do this. This is him talking about McConnell, and let's see if we can go to this, guys, and we'll play this out.
You're taking a total shot, even some of the symbolism in there, you're taking a total shot right at Mitch McConnell, and you're not holding back. Is that how this campaign is? Because, McConnell's been around for a long time because they play very dirty up there, right? This is not for the uninitiated. So tell me, first of all, about even the ad starting off like this, so aggressive, up in Mitch McConnell's grill, and kind of sending a notice to his acolytes that, hey, you want to bring it, you bring it. So walk me through the logic. You got a great team. I know a lot of these guys, but walk me through your logic for this.
Look, Steve, there's only one way to handle Mitch McConnell, and that's absolute brute force. Mitch McConnell's been the nastiest politician that America has seen in the modern era. I mean, he would relish the fact that he would destroy his enemies. He brags about this stuff in Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, he's met his match, because we're going to run over him over and over again with that garbage truck and take out the trash finally of his record and his legacy. And his cronies, his minions, they are going crazy. They don't know what to say, Steve, because you know what? No one has had the spine and the courage to actually take it to them and litigate their record properly here in Kentucky. But we're going to do it. And, Steve, I know you're probably a fan of The Sopranos. I come out of the garbage business. This is the roughest, nastiest business you can be in. And I'm going to relish this fight. I love it. I'm so excited because it's finally time that we get somebody who's America first, who's going to stand with Trump, and who's going to finally take out the trash of Mitch McConnell and all the remnants that are left over that are hanging around the hoop, trying to make a dollar off the government or trying to enrich themselves. We're going to take it to them like they've never seen in the history of Kentucky politics and in the history of American politics.
There we go. So, there we go. That's Nate Morris. He's definitely anti-McConnell. He's going to run against his legacy. And so the question is, what is that legacy? What can conservatives or Republicans in this state, what can we agree on is his legacy? And we're going to certainly have that conversation in this campaign. So we'll be right back. We got more coverage of this Nate Morris announcement, announcing his candidacy with Charlie Kirk.
Would you care to do a quick interview? Huh? That's fine.
You guys got 7 minutes till we get back up.
7 minutes? Okay, we have time.
Oh, okay. That's good.
That's good.
Zach needs to go use the restroom real quick. Poor guy.
Yeah.
There haven't been too many people that left.
What do you think?
Fabulous. What do you think about just bantering back and forth with Bob's?
Yeah, I think that worked.
We got him in the hall. So
Yeah. The audio did sound better now that he's in the hallway, and so.
Yeah. Well,
they
it's
did. Oh,
obviously
gosh.
more.
It still sounds a bit saturated, but it's better.
Yeah.
This is Kentucky's Voice Radio, covering the latest state and local issues with Tom Fallbush, Bob Scott, and Jim Waters.
All right, it's a pretty exciting day in Kentucky politics. We have Nate Morris, a businessman who's announcing his candidacy right now here in Shepherdsville, which is in the Louisville market, just outside of Louisville, just south at Paracut Springs, and he's with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk has introduced him, and matter of fact, the event is just letting out. You can see Bob there live at the event. He's going to interview some of the folks that just to watch the event there. So, Bob, who do you have with you there? What's their thoughts on this?
Exciting, Tom. They are letting out. I have Louis here from Fairdale that came over. I by the way, I love your hat and your shirt, brother. Thank you for showing your love for God and in our country. Amen. And what made you decide to come out today to check this event out?
Well, I've always liked Charlie, and I'm a Donald Trump fan. I think he's with God. I think God saved his life for a purpose. And we're just grateful that we have people that are coming out to show support for the right side of history. I think that we've got a lot going on, and I'm praying to God that people are starting to pay attention to what's going on. It's so important, and we need God back in our life, and we don't have that anymore.
Amen.
We've got to get back to that side. And that's why I'm here. My sister came with me and her girlfriend, so we're just so grateful that we were able to come out and support. And like I said, all the glory goes to God, and I do believe that this is going to work out for us because He is with us, and we cannot fail.
Yeah, and I guess you obviously like the words that Charlie and also Nate had to say about.
Oh, absolutely. They're spot on. They're hitting the issues head on.
Yes.
So, I mean, we need people to do that.
Yes.
So grateful. I'm so grateful. I could give it all to God. Things will work out.
Yeah.
And I think that He's with us.
Amen. Well, great comments, Nate. I appreciate you stopping by, taking some time and coming out to the event today. Have you been moved one way or the other, I guess, with regard to...
I'm Trump all the way. This guy's he's got my vote.
Okay. So that means, I guess, you're with Nate Morris now, too.
Well, yeah, the Democrats are from the devil, man. They're pushing the wrong side of the biscuit.
Okay, brother.
I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going after the kids, and that ain't what God would do.
That's right. That's right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your comments. I appreciate it.
God bless.
Yeah.
Good job there, Bob. Do you have someone else there, or?
Yeah, I've got Senator Aaron Reed here as well.
Okay. Well, let me know when you
Senator
got him
Reed,
teed up.
come on over. I noticed that you drove over from Shelbyville today. Former Navy SEAL and a true patriot. You've been on my show several times, Aaron, and I do appreciate your service. You know that you've done for our country, and that's one of the fun parts about something live like this. We're kind of moving as we go here. But you drove over all the way from Shelbyville just to check it out. And what were your thoughts?
The biggest crowd I've ever seen here at the Fair Springs. I've been here several times for Patriot events. I think General Flynn was the last person I saw here, and pretty good crowd. But this was a full house.
Yes, and obviously we know people like Steve Bannon. We know Donald Trump Jr. is firmly behind, Nate Morris in this run, this bid. What are your thoughts about that?
I just met Nate a couple of months back. We've been talking, and he seems to have some good points. Seems like a really good conservative guy. He's been in the trenches as a CEO, and he's actually run businesses. So, you got to give some credit to that, for having experience in this type of arena.
Yeah, and it seems right now that it's obviously we know it's a three-man race, but money would say a little differently. We know that Daniel Cameron has about $500,000 in his war chest, from what I've been told. We know that Andy Barr has about $4 or $5 million, depending on who you talk to, and then we know that Nate Morris should have an unlimited budget as well. Do you think at the end of the day it's going to come down to Andy Barr and Nate Morris?
I would think that looks like it's going to be the case. I mean, you can't raise money.
That's critical too.
It is. It's critical, and it sucks that that's part of the way that we have to do things here in our political world. But if you can't raise the money, you're really not getting the support of the people behind you. It's easy to write your own check, I guess, if you have to do that. But just like in my race, I promised my wife I wouldn't spend any of our own money because if I can't raise it, then that means you don't have the support.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a really big sign that if you can't raise the money, then we're not going to have the support when the election time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see where this race goes. Now, I mean, this is really all hands on deck and moving forward right now. And I know the next several months should be very interesting. What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to get really interesting because, I'm not so sure that these are the only three guys going to be in the race.
Yeah, really? Okay.
I hear rumblings of other folks. We'll see.
Yeah, I know the gentleman I just interviewed mentioned Scott Jennings with CNN, but I don't know if he's quite ready to make that transition. But it really is interesting as far as what we're now seeing.
Yeah, I agree. It is. And, Nathan's a great guy. Hopefully, God's will be done.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, thanks so much, Aaron. I appreciate you stopping by and saying hi, and God bless you and your family as you continue to move forward, bro.
Thanks.
All right. Yes,
sir.
take care. All right, Tom. Well, you heard it from Aaron Reed, former Navy SEAL, as well as a man of God, man of faith as well, and giving his opinion as to, what transpired here today. All that I know and all that I can say is the crowd here was enthusiastic and much larger than I think was initially expected. I know that they had a little over 2 weeks to put this together, and it's absolutely amazing how many folks showed up for this. And I did have a chance to talk to some people who didn't want to come on camera, but let's just say in leadership positions from different Republican parties, county Republican parties, and they said, and rightfully so, they have to kind of right now remain neutral, but they want to come out and hear and see what Nate Morris is all about.
That's right. That's right. And plus the Charlie Kirk effect. I think most people are there. Let's just be honest. Most people are there to see Charlie Kirk more than Nate Morris. Nate Morris is really an unknown entity at this point, but he certainly made some waves today, and he's been making waves recently, and in the MAGA world and all things conservative in the state. So people are curious to see who he is. But I think the crowd was there to see Charlie Kirk as much as anything else. Not to take away from Nate Morris. I think he gave a great speech. He's standing up for some of the right policies right now. He's going to be very pro-Trump in his approach to things, and so I'm very supportive of that. The question is, how will this campaign play out? How will this primary play out? Because his opponents, Cameron and Barr and whoever else is going to jump in the race, Scott Jennings, for example, they're going to have some things to say about his record. And so there's a lot of folks that have questioned that. And for example, let's see, I was reading here, Daniel Cameron. Let's see. Let's see. Well, first of all, let's talk about Cameron. Just Cameron in general. Is he a viable candidate? People are concerned about how well that governor's race went. It seems like there were some missteps there. He couldn't defeat Andy Beshear. It was a close race, but there was maybe some campaign management issues. I've heard rumblings that he's now just kind of blaming the McConnell folks for that, or maybe he's he's kind of has a different tune about some of his mentoring that he's received, and so maybe he's going to have a different approach to this campaign. Don't know, but he certainly did not win a statewide office for governor, and so why would he win a statewide office for a Senate race? And so that's just a natural question to ask. And so there's that question. However, great man of God, great politician. He did just a great job as Attorney General. He really took it to Andy Beshear when he needed to be taken to the woodshed, and he did. And so, and hats off to Cameron for doing that. He's a strong, solid conservative, generally speaking. I think he lines up well with the Trump agenda in many ways. Trump actually had Cameron speak at one of his rallies back in 2020, if you recall, and Trump basically brought him up and said, "Here's one of the rising stars of the party right here." And so there was some connection there with Trump, but this time around, the Trump world has gotten behind, looks like Nate Morris, and it all started with an interview with Don Jr. on his podcast, and that kind of introduced him to the MAGA world on that level. And of course, Don Jr. is probably the closest surrogate you could have in Trump world to Trump, and so that's important. And of course, Charlie Kirk has kind of an adopted son of the Trump family in a sense, in a lot of ways. So you get Charlie Kirk back and Nate Morris. So that goes a long way to establish his brand in that space. However, his opponents, Andy Barr and Cameron and some of the others have said, listen, this guy is not MAGA enough. He might be, saying, it might be a recent convert. Maybe he's sort of maybe someone that has the right phraseology or the right rhetoric right now, but look what he did in the past. Is he someone that really believes it? And I tell you, we've got about 90 seconds left. I'm going to go to Bob real quick. He's got John Hodgson with him. So Bob.
John Hodgson and Emily Callaway, Tom.
Yeah,
they both
go ahead.
attended today's event. Of course, they're state reps from the Louisville area. I just want to get their thoughts real quick.
I thought it was lit. I mean, we pretty much hit the fire marshal capacity in the building. Every seat was filled, standing room only. A lot of energy, a lot of people agreeing with what Charlie had to say and what Nate had to say. I think it really resonated with the community.
And Emily, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely the same. The energy here, hope this carries on, this momentum, let's keep it going. Show the entire world, as was mentioned, that we want to change and we're willing to fight for it. This Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's interesting because as quickly as this was put together, and I know you were one of the organizers, it was a masterful job. And standing room only crowd. I think there's a new energy here right now happening in Kentucky.
Yeah, this is 10 o'clock on a Monday morning. There were people that took off a vacation day to be here, and we still sold every seat.
Yes, awesome. Tom, any other questions?
No, that's it. We've got about 20 seconds for the break. If he can stick around, I'd love to talk to him more after this break. But we got to jump to a break. We got about 20 seconds left. So that's Bob Scott there at Paraquet Springs. We just had an event with Nate Morris, who just announced his candidacy. Charlie Kirk was there and gave the endorsement. So let's see what happens. We'll be right back after this. We're doing a live coverage of
Now, back to
I can always play a video as well.
Radio, online
All right.
at kyvoice.org.
I love it when the guys in the back yell in my ear, go, hey, you're on the air. We stop talking? And so welcome back to the show. We got a special version of Kentucky's Voice today. We're covering the announcement that Nate Morris just had in Paraquet Springs in Shepherdsville, and where he announced his candidacy for Senate, to run for Senate. And so he's one of the candidates in the primary that he's in this, and they're basically going to be running against, not against, for Mitch McConnell's seat. Mitch McConnell is going to retire, and so that seat is going to be open. So there's going to be an open primary, and it's going to be interesting. Nate Morris is trying to line up with the MAGA world, getting that MAGA endorsement. Charlie Kirk was there to sort of solidify that in the minds of voters, and so that's So that's what's happened today. So Bob is there right after the event's over, and so Bob, we're going to go to you, and we're going to, if we can't. Well, he's actually still chatting it up with some folks. So we have John Hodgson with him.
People just want.
Well, I'll keep going until Bob. Are you ready? There we go. Okay, Bob, we're going to go to you, and you've got John Hodgson with you, Representative John Hodgson. So, go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Hey, we're back. It's been a crazy day, John, but I think you would say a wonderful day as far as the turnout that happened here was, I'm sure, beyond your expectations, and it kept growing because, again, reminding people this was only put together about 3 weeks ago, and to have this kind of turnout at 10 a.m. on a Monday is incredible.
Yeah, this is Heartland America. These are people that are working people. They're taking care of kids. They're working in factories. They're working on the farms. They managed to get off of work and be here and pack this place out on a Monday morning at 10. I think that's just amazing. I think that says that they are hungry for the kind of message that we need a senator who's going to put America first, the working Americans first, not foreign countries, not illegal aliens. We're going to put Americans first. And I think that's the message we heard here today from St. Morris and Charlie Kirk.
And I'll be honest with you, and I think I told you, I was a little surprised, in a good way, that I saw that you were had gone on the Nate Morris train, so to speak, and to a point that you actually were one of the organizers for this event, because I know you'd worked with Daniel Cameron in the last race. And can you share with our listeners or viewers the reason for that?
So Nate grew up about a block away from my house in Baytown. We're 20 years apart. We didn't know each other, but I've known him for about 6 months now. It turns out he knew all the people I knew. He used to see my cows in the field when he went for the school bus, that kind of thing. So I built a pretty good connection with him, found out what he's all about, and I think he's got the right stuff for this race. And that's why I'm with him. I think he is willing to take it on the chin. He knows it's going to be a rough race. It's going to get ugly. A lot of bad things.
It's already gotten ugly.
And that's not something most of us like in politics, but that is the way it is. You know, if we're going to go into
and you know, John, it really does seem like it's 2-on-1 right now. You know, you have the other two candidates more or less tag teaming and going after Morris, who really didn't officially declare. I guess on a Donald Trump Jr. podcast a couple of days ago, but today was his formal coming out party.
Right. Yeah. So Trump Jr. had him on Thursday evening at 6, I think, and within minutes there were hundreds of thousands of texts and emails.
Like, who's this guy?
Who's this guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a rough arena, you know, and I think negative politics sells clicks.
Yes.
People like to sell clicks. It's not a direction I love, but that is the environment we're in right now.
Yeah.
You know, you got to punch hard. You got to be willing to take a punch, and people are calling it like it is, and not like politics was a generation ago. I'll say that.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely right about that. It has changed, and what does this do to the McConnell legacy? Because you know, obviously he did so much for Kentucky for many years, but he certainly has shifted away from the, I guess, the populace, if you will, and kind of dug his heels in.
I think folks had some gratitude for Mitch, especially what he did with the Supreme Court
justices. Yeah.
Those were Trump appointees that he got through the
Senate. Yep, he did. Yep.
Fundamental transformation of the court, which is great. But I think in going against the Trump agenda these days, going against the Trump cabinet appointments, when he clearly had a mandate from America.
Yes.
And a very,
one that can't be denied.
A very vocal mandate. And for our, you know, leading senator to go against that, trying to block his crucial cabinet appointees, I can't excuse that.
Yeah, and what's going on with Kentucky in general? I mean, you know, we've had Rand Paul go against him at times, and then we also know Thomas Massey has.
Yeah, so I say politics make strange bedfellows and strange allies, and normally Mitch McConnell found the face of Rand Paul weren't on the same team. In this case, they were all voted against various aspects of the Trump agenda. And, you know, love Thomas Massey, love Rand Paul, those guys for years. We disagree on some things.
Yeah.
I don't agree on everything with anybody except my wife and everybody else.
Smart answer. Well, moving forward, one final question. Where do you see this race going? Where do you see Kentucky going with regard to the next, I guess, what is it going to be, about 14, 15 months to the general election?
Right. I think the real race is going to be between now and May in the primary. I think we're going to have national attention. There's probably only two other Senate races in the country that are going to get this kind of attention, but all eyes will be on Kentucky. They'll be on this race. They'll be looking at whatever's going on with MAGA versus Thomas Massey. And because we're talking about the former majority leader of the Senate, so this is a title shift in Kentucky. This is 40,
it really is, isn't it?
40 years of one guy being the prime influencer in the party here. And I think that era is ending. Some people are glad to see it end. Some people are upset that it's ending. And I think, we're going to see some friendship strained, and hopefully, whatever bloody noses we end up with, we can wipe it off in May and come together and beat the Democrats. So.
And I think that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, everybody coalesces behind the candidate, whoever it is.
I'm a big tent Republican. I think we have room for diversity of opinion. We can fight each other until May, but after May, we all come together and we unite under one banner and we go fight the Democrats. The Democrats anymore are not just the opposition party. They're the enemy of Western civilization. They want to destroy this country. They want to pervert things that have been traditions of humanity for 2,000 years. And I'm just not going there. You have to remember that. Whatever happens in the primary, people have to dust themselves off and say, hey, sorry about that. I'm with, and whoever wins the nomination, I will be with 100%.
Well said, John Hodson. State Representative John Hodson has been my guest here today, and thank you for putting on such a wonderful event today and commission to see what's going to happen next several months. I'll have you back on my show again here soon.
Always look.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, great interview, Bob. And so, and I want to echo what he just said, what John Hodgson said there. That we should be a big tent party at the end of the day. We do need to come together and coalesce, because at the end of the day, if you don't win elections, if you don't garner enough political power to win elections, all this stuff doesn't mean anything. And so, there's times where you just need to work with those you may not totally agree with. Maybe 90% of issues you agree with, but the 10% you don't. You need to work with those folks in order to get power, so at least those 90% of those issues can get advanced, and that's something the Republicans are generally been smart about, and so we need to remember that. And this is going to be a hard-fought campaign. There's going to be a lot of probably hurt feelings because of the McConnell legacy being trashed and et cetera. And I'm all about trashing it when it needs to be trashed, because there's a lot of it that it should be trashed. His TDS that he picked up over the past few years, Trump derangement syndrome, it's a shame. It's ridiculous, and I think it's just ruining his legacy. Because I tell you something else. People talk about the judges. All his effort that he made to get Supreme Court justices and and just other judges nominated throughout our court system, federal court system. And that's great. I mean, he's heroic in that. We wouldn't have had Roe v. Wade overturned if it wasn't for Mitch McConnell doing some of his moves during the end of the Obama era. And so we've got a lot to thank Mitch McConnell for on that front. Though some of those judges that did get nominated have gotten a little wonky lately. I'm kind of not so thrilled with some of these folks because we thought they were good constitutional conservatives, but they're certainly kind of a little bit squishy there. Regardless, he did good work there. But let me tell you something else Mitch McConnell did do right. Mitch McConnell, when he came into office back in the 80s, he came into a state that was a Democrat state. This state was run by the Democrat Party. We had Democrats legislatures, Democrat governors, and et cetera, et cetera. Mitch McConnell and call it his machine, call it his systems, call it his people, he basically helped flip Kentucky to a red state. Now granted, and we're only 20 seconds left, so we have to pick this up after the break. But granted, the rest of the South did that too. But McConnell did a lot to help make that happen. So we got something to thank McConnell for there in that front as well. So, but now that machine might be working against MAGA. So let's talk about that in this next segment. We'll be right back. We're talking about Kentucky's voice, Nate Morris's announcement.
Back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
All right, welcome back to Kentucky's Voice. We have a special program today. We're doing live coverage of the Nate Morris announcement for his candidacy for Senate. He's seeking to replace Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell's retiring, so that's going to be an open seat, and so he's throwing his hat into the ring. And so today he made a big announcement. He was actually at Paracut Springs in Shepherdsville, just south of Louisville, and he had Charlie Kirk there. Charlie Kirk actually gave the endorsement and actually introduced him, said a few words about the importance of Kentucky and this seat and unseating, not McConnell because he's stepping up, but unseating the McConnell legacy in a sense and trying to get rid of the rhinos. And so that was interesting to hear that. I think we're all big fans of Charlie and all things that Turning Point USA has done to help the MAGA movement. And so certainly a big fan of Charlie. So that says a lot. It gives Nate Morris a lot of wind in his sails. So now I'm going to go to Bob. Bob's at Paracut Springs. He's been interviewing folks. We've got one of our favorite co-hosts here, Vlad Aguilar. So let's go to you, Bob. So let's see what Vlad has to say.
Pleased to see Vlad here today and Aguilar, and he is, as you mentioned, Tom, one of our frequent co-hosts or hosts on Kentucky's Voice, and you bring more of a Latino feel to it and mix. And of course, you yourself are from Cuba originally.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yep.
And what was it like? What was your impression, Vlad, of the rally that we just attended?
Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And of course, with Nate and Carter. For the Cuban, we know firsthand.
Yes.
And I know Charlie is really fight and family and Porto, especially in the United States. So it's kind of like an amazing point to have him here, to be close to him and having someone with the same point of view that they see the same issue the same way you've seen it.
Yes.
Or that we experience back here.
Yeah, and that's a very important point that you make because you lived it. You know.
We know
what totalitarianism is, you know communism, and you know how important it is that we as a nation move forward as far away from that as we possibly can. And what's your feelings now, is having heard Charlie say what he had to say?
Well, believe it or not, even in America, we still have, roots of that kind. Because, like I say every time, Cuba is like evil of the Americas, so they try to support that all the time. Probably he has been doing a great job on his universities.
Yeah,
because like I say,
phenomenal job.
Yeah, so
he helped President Trump get elected.
Yes, plus that, there's a bunch of especially people coming from Cuba working in universities to indoctrinate people.
Yes,
so you need to fight those people right there on the bottom.
Yes, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And what's your feelings about Nate Morris now that you've had a chance to hear him?
Well, I like he's not an outsider, so he's not a Washington puppet like we usually get politicians elected. Let's see what he does for the next Senate race.
Awesome. Well, Vlad, thank you so much for stopping by and coming out today, and we look forward to hearing you again on Kentucky's Voice.
There we go.
All right, brother. Take care.
Yeah, great
Tom,
interview,
back
Bob.
to you.
Yeah, great interview, Bob. And I'll tell you, we actually have some footage of this event, so we're gonna play some of this now, and we'll see what we had. Charlie Kirk and Nate Morris having a sit down at this event. So we're gonna go to that now.
Good versus evil for all of us in our day-to-day life. I mean, we're competing with what's on the phone. We're competing with all the nonsense that we're getting out of Washington, all the stuff that we're seeing from big corporations that are trying to get us to do all this crazy stuff. This woke stuff. And it is good versus evil. And I'm proud of my faith. I'm proud that I accepted Christ. And I'm proud that I'm going to be that same person that takes my faith into the office and with everything I do. And, I think the other thing is we know what's right. You know what's the right thing to do. And, President Trump, I mean, how much did he talk about common sense on the campaign trail? You know, you scratch your head and you look at some of the stuff that the Democrats do and you say, that doesn't make any sense. And let me tell you, when you're picking up trash, you got to use common sense. You got to be on time. You got to throw it in the right place. You got to make sure people are getting what they need. This is common sense stuff. And I think we also need people that use good judgment and common sense and do the next right thing. We know what the right thing is to do. I think everybody does. And the Democrats and some Republicans have perverted what good looks like. And they've put us on a path that we can't even recognize. I mean, Charlie, I think the biggest applause you got was men and women's sports. I mean, did you ever think, would we ever think 10 years ago, we would be having a conversation about, you know, the big guy that swims for Pennsylvania?
Riley Gaines is from this great state.
Yeah, that's right.
University of Kentucky.
And it's absolutely crazy that we're even having this conversation today in America. It's ludicrous. So look, I think, Charlie, I'm very fortunate that I'm grounded in faith. And I pray about every big decision, everything that I did. Before I went on here, I said a prayer before I came up.
That's Nate Morris there with a Q&A by Charlie Kickoff, the great Charlie Kirk, to kick off his campaign. The reason I want to juxtapose that, I want to juxtapose Nate and what they're talking about out in Kentucky, because last time it was announced Tillis is not going to run for re-election, about what you're going to see over the next couple of days in Washington. For as hard as you fought, and even for President Trump's beliefs, the games that are going to be played, and hopefully we're going to cover it and give you insights so you can make your calls, the games that are going to be played are going to shock you. Getting the in the parliamentarian, don't get me wrong, the parliamentarian is, I think, bad news. Now, they tell us the more you criticize her on right-wing media, the more she digs her heels in. Well, first of all, the question is, how the hell do...
Yeah, so there we go. So that was a little bit of the footage there of the Q&A with Charlie Kirk and Nate Morris. And so interesting moment in our state politics and national politics. Mitch McConnell, God bless him for been with us 40 years here as our representative, and so that's a big legacy, but a lot of shoes to fill. But I think people are ready to fill those shoes, and certainly Nate Morris is is ready to do that. And along with Andy Barr, along with Daniel Cameron, there's definitely a real race. It's going to be a real race here, and it's going to probably get a little bit nasty. And it's going to be who's the most of this, who's the most of MAGA. See my hat, Make America. Who is more this than anybody else? And right now, the MAGA world, the national MAGA world, is saying that Nate Morris is. And so Charlie Kirk certainly represents that world. Trump Jr. represents that world. So we'll see if that really shakes out, because Barr and Cameron and whoever else jumps in the race, they want to wear this hat too. And so they're going to say, yeah, I'm just as MAGA as he is. As a matter of fact, this is why Morris is not MAGA, because MAGA is not as he's this, that, and the other. So, Tim, we're going to go back to Bob. We've got Bob with what
face, Tom, that's familiar to everybody, especially true Christian conservatives in our state. I'm pleased to welcome Josh Calloway to the show today. He was here at the big rally that just happened in Shepherdsville. And what was your thoughts about it, Josh?
Oh, it was great. It was great to see people turn out, patriots turn out, Christians turn out. Charlie Kirk is a huge influence across this country, and probably, one of the top 5 names is the reason why that President Trump was reelected from the work.
Without a doubt, yeah.
USA did. And so it was really good. And the other thing I think is good about it is Nate announcing his candidacy. I don't look at this as much of a campaign rally as I do an accountability rally.
Okay.
Because if Nate wins this seat, we have 1,500 people that sit there and heard him say what he stood for and what he was going to do. And a national voice like Charlie Kirk that's more than willing to call him out if he doesn't stick to those principles. So I think all around it was a great
and not to mention Steve Bannon, as well. He had his team here, filming, and has been an outspoken supporter of Nate Morris.
Yeah.
And when you say that one of the biggest challenges right now with regard to Nate Morris is no one really knows who he is yet.
Right.
I'm sure that's going to be changing over the next several months. But it is interesting to see that.
It is. I think that he's definitely got to get his name out there, the name ID, and people to know who he is and what he's about. But when you think about it, you look at how this race is going to shape up, and this is kind of more of a philosophical view of it. But when you think about there's probably a few more people that will get in the race. I think that.
Now, do you think when you say that, do you think it's going to be more the Republican side?
I think there could be.
Okay.
There was somebody that got in, I think, from Eastern Kentucky over the weekend.
Okay.
There's a gentleman out of Hardin County that is running. My point in saying that is this vote is going to get split up some. And especially with two big names like Andy Barr in there and like Daniel Cameron in there.
Yeah.
This vote is going to get split
It's gonna get
in a lot
interesting.
of ways. And so it could get very interesting as to who could actually come to the top based on the fact of how the vote gets split.
No, that's a great point. I know that Cameron has about a $500,000 war chest, if you will, build up, but nothing compared to what Barr does. I've heard his range is somewhere around $5 million.
Right.
And of course, that is one of the things about Nate Morris. He is an entrepreneur, and I think I've heard worth billions. That could pretty much self-fund his own campaign.
He has his own personal wealth that he brings to the table, but when you start bringing Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk,
doesn't hurt,
and Donald Trump Jr. to the table, you definitely open yourself up to donors nationwide. So
Yes.
I think that's probably not going to be the issue. I think it's going to be more of him getting his message out there and people trusting what they are hearing him say. And that's what he's got set out in front of him. I've got to know him over the last several months. Seems like a great guy. And the fact to hear anybody, any candidate that's willing to talk about openly about faith and about God and about prayer is encouraging. And to see all the young people that were packed in this room today was very
How refreshing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Josh Calloway, appreciate you stopping
Yes,
by.
sir. God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you. Tom, back to you.
Yeah, great interview. So, all right, well, we got one more segment left. We're gonna discuss just the legacy of McConnell and also what this race means, and we have some more footage of this event we're going to watch as well. And so you're watching a special coverage of Kentucky's Voice of the Nate Morris campaign announcement, where Charlie Kirk came into town and basically endorsed him and had a Q&A. And so pretty big deal for the Commonwealth and for the MAGA world in Kentucky. So we'll be right back.
Now, back to Kentucky's Voice Radio, online at kyvoice.org.
Looking ahead, its first major campaign event for newly announced Kentucky Senate candidate Nate Morris. Morris will be with Charlie Kirk in Shepherdsville tomorrow. He joined Donald Trump Jr. on his podcast, crediting the president on the current makeup of the Supreme Court.
You know, Mitch McConnell likes to take a lot of credit for the courts. He likes to say he's responsible for the Supreme Court. We know that it's your father that created the Supreme Court, that's ushered in a wave of conservatism for a generation.
His opponents, current U.S. Representative Andy Barr and former Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, immediately hit back after Morris entered the race. Barr said in a statement, quote, "Nate Morris is pretending to be MAGA now, but he cannot run from all the liberal trash in his past. Kentucky conservatives won't fall for this fraud," end quote. Meanwhile, Cameron laying out a laundry list of grievances against Morris on social media, saying in part, "The biggest threat here in Kentucky and to our movement is a globalist who dons a MAGA hat and pretends to be America first. Now that we are on the rise, his name is Nate."
All right, here we go. So there we go. Some pretty hard-hitting language there from Andy Barr and Daniel Cameron about Morris, and so we'll see. That's what a primary is about. A primary is about who is going to be the best candidate to represent the party, to represent Republicans in the state. So this is a very needed process. It's going to be an exciting process. Jury's out with me. I mean, I'm certainly MAGA, and if Morris is the most MAGA, I'm going to get behind Morris. But is he? I don't know. We'll find out. Let's go back to Bob. I think, Bob, you have Diane Starr with you out there, and so I'd love to hear what she had to say about this whole event.
Yeah, I'm pleased that Diane Starr is with me. She's a star in her own right. Yeah. She's been here the entire time. And Diane, what was your thoughts and observations?
Well, I was waiting for the big elephant to come out and all the negativity, but I didn't see that. I love the way Charlie Kirk led things to the things that people want to hear without introducing all the bad history. And I did say that to Nate's team when they come up and asked me what I felt about it. He seemed authentic tonight or today. He seemed like he had the right answers, but were they the right questions? Mm-hmm. And that's one thing we have to look up in the coming days.
Yeah.
Those people out here, a lot of constituents that I know in different places say to me, will you ask him this? Will you ask him that? But the moment he told me they accepted Jesus, it kind of put a halt on me for a moment. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, who am I to judge? I have to see what's going on with it. And the fact that he stayed on Mitch, which he should have.
Yeah.
We all hate Mitch with godly hate. I don't want to say that. Okay, Mitchy.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter, in the coming days, Bob, again, he's going to have to talk about the other candidates because Mitch isn't running.
Yeah.
So I understood what his strategy was here and what he wanted to do with Charlie. That opportunity with Charlie introduced the godly aspect of it, gave him a lot of credence.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah. And don't you think that he's talking about Mitch? Because right now, let's face it, Mitch did a lot of good for our state, but he certainly has taken a downward turn southward from certainly the MAGA crowd, the state itself, in which Trump carried pretty handily, 70% of the vote he carried here, and has gone and opposed him every step of the way, it seems like. So wouldn't you have to say, though, it's somewhat wise that he does frame that and try to attach his opponent to Mitch in particular?
Absolutely. Because a lot of people in this audience aren't familiar in depth with the rest of the candidates. Maybe Daniel had a little profile. He was wise.
Yeah.
He was wise to start out with Mitch and everything that Mitch has done against us, including the newest Supreme Court. I think I just addressed that in the last segment.
Yeah.
But Mitch has always been behind the scenes pulling strings as a puppet. That's been my feeling. But
well, you're not the first person to say that today.
No. I bet I'm not. If we query.
Certainly, probably the foremost influential Republican leader that this state has seen in a half a century.
Yes. Oh, you're talking about?
I'm talking about Mitch. Yeah, I mean he pulled a lot of strings and controlled not just from a national standpoint, but certainly from federal, even local races as well. I know he poured a lot of money into those to solidify his base and his influence in the state.
And he has that influence. And I've heard so much behind the scenes that we can't validate everything and say everything we want that we've heard. But I think the general consensus is Mitch is a bad news. Mitch has been bad news, and he's not making it any better. So if you were running against just Mitch, I think it would be a clear-cut course.
Yeah, right.
I think it would be a clear-cut course that they would do. But seeing is that he's going to go against the others. But once again, I'm going to reiterate what you said, that it was a smart move. Plus with Charlie there. Charlie cannot stand. And he, again, is one of the influences of the United States of America. He's the one we rely on. He's the one that goes out and fights the fight for the youth.
Yeah.
And don't you think there's several things that I was thinking of, Nate, several things that he's going to have to concentrate on for his
yeah, absolutely. One's going to be name recognition. I don't think that's going to be a problem as time goes on. He's got the financial wherewithal to bring that to the table, to get out there. And certainly huge to have somebody like Charlie Kirk firmly behind him, as well as Steve Bannon. So it is absolutely moving in the right direction from his standpoint. So it's going to be interesting, to see. And I think John Hodson or somebody mentioned to me that a couple other Republicans have thrown their name in the hat. So, before it's all said and done, we could have 4 or 5 Republicans running, which if that happens, what's that going to mean? It's going to dilute the vote, so it's going to be interesting to see what that's going to look like as we come down to primary day.
And it's the way it always is. People don't think, but we're in trouble with who we have, and we could lose a lot. And any dilution of all those candidates, you have to ask the question: why are they jumping in? They've got this big name that are running in, all of a sudden all the little names.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be a Machiavellian plot? I love to say that word. So, but you have to remember that, because what you said was spot on. We're disseminating the party. You're disseminating the party, and Kentucky has a history for doing it.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing, though, and I'm believing what's going to happen is, and as John Hodson so eloquently pointed out, we're going to come together, hopefully, at the end of the day, coalesce to make certain, that we have a good conservative Republican leader that's truly wanting to put America first, not their own aspirations, but put America first.
Right, and I did get a brief.
Yeah, come back when you can, Bob.
I didn't get to take, because I am ambassador for Veterans for America First.
Yeah.
So I said, do you understand the demographics of just the vets alone? If you ever embrace it, it's excited enough or passionate enough to come out and vote, because they're just dirt.
Yes.
Good
stuff.
So go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Diane, for tuning in.
Good show. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you, Bob, for being out there today. And so, I agree with everything you guys are saying. And let me say this too. We had a text come in that said I was praising McConnell a bit too much. So let me make up for that and say this. I'm really disgusted in McConnell. And so, personally, granted, he has a legacy that's complex, and he's done a lot for the state. I mentioned that in previous segments. Help rebuild the Republican Party in the state. That ought to be. You got to get some credit for that. The judges and the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade. There's some credit there. You can attribute to Mitch McConnell, but his latest moves to block Trump and to be sort of an obstructionist, especially early on in this latest Trump administration, was just so petty. It wasn't even obstructionist in the sense that it made any sense. He wasn't even making a philosophical point like, say, Rand Paul was or Massey was. He was doing it just out of personal spite, and that just really disappointed me personally as a someone who supported him my whole life. it just really disappointed me, and so I'm kind of disgusted in that, and I think he's just really ruined his image to folks that have really supported him his entire life, and so I'm not a fan right now, and I think it's appropriate, absolutely appropriate for all these guys running or gals. If there's a lady who's going to run, who knows going to. Sounds like there's another 4 or 5 people that's jumped in the race after that last conversation. So whoever's running. They certainly need to talk about his legacy and what he's done and what that means, and probably in a negative light, because it deserves it right now. So I'm going to play a little bit more. We've got only up 2 minutes left. I'll play a little bit more of the event today and see what Nate Morris had to say.
And enough is enough. And it's your party. You put up the signs. You knock the doors. You do the work. You should hear the truth. You should hear the truth. And the fact that they're trying to silence us, look, that just means we're winning, Charlie, out of the gate. But let me tell you, when you see this nasty stuff, because it's going to come, they're going to call me everything in the book. They already have. I want you to remember, Mitch McConnell would always say, if they throw a pebble at me, I'm going to throw a boulder back. Mitch McConnell's the nastiest politician in the history of America, and he will do anything to win and to keep his power. And so I want you to think about that, because we're going to punch through every one of these attacks, and we're going to tell the truth.
And just the idea of a Lifetime Achievement Award for Mitch McConnell. I mean, how broken do you have to be? I mean, that's why I'm here. Okay, that's why I'm here, is that we're going to go give Mitch McConnell a Lifetime Achievement Award? What is it, like the government of Ukraine that's giving him the award or something? I mean... everybody, the stakes are high, and I'll close with this, and then Nate, final word, just to remind people, because we're still a ways out from the primary.
Yeah.
Right? We're still ways out. But a final word I'll say is this, is that I travel the country, I love the grassroots, I love the state, I love talking to you guys. Thank you guys for watching the show and everything we're doing. We're going to keep on doing maximal aggression against the left on campuses, in communities all across the country. You can count on that from us. But I would be a hypocrite to you. I would be a liar to you if I only fought Democrats. I would be a liar, because that's not the problem, everybody. I do the thing against Democrats, and that's great. We should do that.
Just go out with
this. But the real problem is Republicans that call themselves Republicans when reality they aren't. And Kentucky can send a message heard around the world. It will be a message heard around planet Earth that you are turning the page on the McConnell Mafia, and the people are back in charge of this wonderful state.
All right.
Well,